Hello and welcome back to Green Money Momentum, where we talk about market movements, making money, and money momentum. I'm your host, Trevor, and we are here for yet another daily talk of stock. And it is Tuesday, June 3rd. And so overall, it looks like it was a great Tuesday in the markets. I hope everybody had a great Tuesday out there. If you are investing into these markets, you probably did, because if you opened up your portfolio, you saw some higher numbers giving you a nice dopamine rush. So overall, a very nice bullish day in the markets. And when we look at the macroeconomic news, not really too much to report here. So we did have some numbers reported. We did have factory orders and job openings, and it looks like job openings actually came in better than expected. So that is a positive there. Factory orders down a little bit, but not too bad. And then tomorrow we do have ADP employment numbers, ISM service numbers, the S&P final U.S. services PMI. So some numbers tomorrow, but nothing too major that should really cause too much volatility in the market, at least when we look at what's on this macroeconomic calendar. But we need to be aware of this. So last week at market close, Trump did write this on Truth Social. He said that it is his great honor to raise the tariffs on steel and aluminum from 25% to 50% effective tomorrow, Wednesday, June 4th. And so this is going to be some big news for tomorrow. I personally am not too concerned about this, but with each set of tariffs, we have seen the tariffs get rolled back, or the numbers were cut to be not as extreme as initially expected. And well, this Truth Social post did come out on May 30th, and there hasn't been any more talk of it since. So it does look like these are still on the table. And so I just want investors to be aware of that, because there has been three factors this year that have caused a lot of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the markets. Interest rates, inflation, and then the third, what we're seeing here, the tariffs. And so the tariffs have caused a lot of panic. And so just be aware of tomorrow. There could be some volatility within the markets. With that being said, we're going to talk about three plays on this channel that have a lot of high volatility associated with them. So we're going to start out with that big guy back there, Big Bear. Then we're going to go into QBTS and finish with QUBT. So we're going to start out with an AI defense company. Then we're going to go into quantum computing stocks. And before anything, I want to say, as always, of course, that this is not financial advice, and I always recommend that you do your own due diligence before making any financial decisions. So with that being said, when we look at the Big Bear right now, it is sitting at a crucial level, as over the last few weeks, we have been following on this upwards trend we could see here. So we have been on this rising level of support and resistance. And well, with today's bleeding in the Big Bear, we have seen the red candlestick go right through this level of support. So Big Bear is sitting at this critical spot here. Not saying that Big Bear will drop more, but investors need to be aware of this, because there is the potential that we do break out of this trend tomorrow. There is also the potential that we do rise up as well. But the numbers I am looking for just on the short-term analysis, if we do see bleeding in the Big Bear, I could see ourselves drop back down to $3.50. If that were the case, we could see from where we are at now, we could see Big Bear drop about 8%. But if Big Bear does have a bullish day tomorrow, and if it does bounce off this rising level of support, we could see Big Bear potentially get back up to $4, $4.15, $4.30, and then at the highest level of resistance would be around $4.50. In the short term, the highest level that we tapped was at $4.50. So when we look at the other indicators here, we could see that right now we are in the middle on the relative strength index. So right at about 52. And then also on the MACD, we are at a spot where we could potentially see the blue line cross over the orange, which would signal that we will see some bearish momentum coming up. But we could also see ourselves bounce up just like we saw earlier in April. So kind of a 50-50 spot for the Big Bear right now. a lot of potential volatility. And then this news doesn't really help us in the short term either, because there has been a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt with Big Bear when it comes to possible dilution. And well, I hate to share this news right here because it does look like there will be some dilution coming in the Big Bear. And so Big Bear had this announced yesterday. And as this article reads right here, on May 10th of 2024, so last year, Big Bear entered into a controlled equity offering sales agreement with Cantor Fitzgerald and Company, allowing the company to sell shares of its common stock through the sales agent. And so just as of recently, Big Bear has sold shares for gross proceeds of approximately $150 million. And as of yesterday, the company filed a new prospectus with the SEC to continue the sales under the same terms, maintaining a maximum aggregate offering price of $150 million. So basically what this is saying is that Big Bear has been in this agreement with that Cantor Fitzgerald and Company, and there are going to be new shares that are going to be put into the market coming up in the near term, so right at the money. And the reason why this concerns some investors is because what this is essentially saying is right now Big Bear does have 291 million shares outstanding. And so with this agreement, more shares are going to be added to the pool, diluting current investors into the Big Bear. So it could be looked at as two ways. You do have that take where Big Bear is being diluted a bit, so more shares are being added into the market, but it is a positive in the sense that they have raised $150 million. So a positive for Big Bear when it comes to funding, but a bit of a negative for shareholders seeing ourselves get diluted. Overall, this is a growing company. So when we do look at Big Bear's revenue, we can see that they do have big quarters with big revenues here. So 40 million plus on a lot of these quarters. And then also this company is still relatively small with a market cap of 1.1 billion, but they are growing because we do see these strong revenues up in the 40 million range with each quarter. But what is very positive is that Big Bear this last year has gained a lot of big government contracts that have yet to show up in the current earnings reports. And so Big Bear's next earnings will be a bit later in the year. So a couple months away, I believe, either at the end of July, maybe the beginning of August. I'll have to check that, but right around there. So we do have a little bit of time till that next earnings report, but there is always the chance that we do see some numbers show up in one of those earnings reports, and if not the next one, future ones from here. So Big Bear in general, gaining government contracts, paying down debt, still a relatively small market cap, and they are still at a net loss, but they are working on that. So if you are investing into Big Bear, you are truly investing for the future, because similar to a play I used to talk about a lot, Tesla. With Tesla, they were originally at net losses, and then they had flipped that into the positive range, and from there their stock just gained so much growth. And so with Big Bear, I believe there will be the time when they do get all of their debts paid off and they do start to get out of this level of being at a negative earnings per share and everything like that. But I did just want to make investors aware of the news that we had of this dilution. And that, again, isn't to put any fear, uncertainty, and doubt in Big Bear investors. I am very bullish over the Big Bear for the long course, but as investors, we need to be aware of everything going on. And so some chances of dilution. This dilution may cause a little bit of selling pressure. And again, we are right at the bottom of this rising level of support and resistance, with the relative strength index right at around 50. So really a 50-50 shot in the short term. But as I'm saying, long-term investors understand that there is going to be short-term volatility. And in my opinion, I mean, when we just look at the 52-week high set in the Big Bear, it was in the double-digit range. So I consider Big Bear to still be very undervalued, especially with all that they are offering and the true intrinsic value behind the Big Bear. So that is with the Big Bear. Next, we're going to hop into quantum. So we're going to start out with our favorite quantum computing stock here, and that is QBTS. So we could see that in D-Wave Quantum, similar to the rising level of support and resistance that we were talking about in Big Bear. This overall trend has been in a much bigger trend of rising support and resistance through most of the year. So recently with QBTS's big earnings, we did see that pop, and we did rise past that level of resistance. And we could see that Big Bear is not looking like it wants to tap back on that former rising level of resistance. And so QBTS recently has been trading a bit overvalued, a bit high on the relative strength index, and then also on the MACD. But in general, this stock is showing a lot of strength. And so the price has been moving significantly up, and the momentum started when we did get this big earnings report for D-Wave Quantum. So with their Q1 earnings, it more than 4x'd all their previous earnings. That was the projection at 10.5 million, with previous quarters being all at 2 million. They greatly exceeded that at 15 million. So very positive catalysts there. And then also they have made some advancements with their quantum computing recently. So they did come out with a new updated best version of their, I think it's their Advantage 2 system it's called. So some intrinsic value growing within QBTS, and this company is doing a lot. This is personally my favorite quantum computing stock because of all the big players that QBTS already works with. So they are very commercial, and what makes this quantum computing company different than others is they use annealing quantum instead of gate model quantum. So if you don't know the difference, basically annealing is more has more real world use today. So it helps to solve a lot of big problems. One of their big companies that they work with, for example, is Boeing. And so with Boeing, there are so many moving parts, and these annealing quantum computers help to compress all that data, save a lot of time. And so QBTS, D-Wave Quantum, working with a lot of big customers, and this company overall growing. So we are again looking a bit overbought on some of the indicators, but myself, I am very bullish on quantum over the long term. And so I am having a hard time thinking that we will ever return back to this zone here. And so it is looking like D-Wave Quantum has broken out of this previous trend. It may stay on this level of rising resistance for a while. We will have to see, especially when the stock does start to come back down on the RSI, on them, and on the MACD, and overall what macroeconomic trends look like. But quantum seeing a lot of strength in it, and there is a lot of fear of missing out when it comes to quantum computing. So these quantum computing stocks have gotten a lot of FOMO, and we know with stocks sometimes FOMO is really your best friend, because that is really when a play could oftentimes run the most. And so now, talking about quantum, we're going to hop in to another quantum stock that we just recently covered, and that is QUBT. The name is actually just quantum computing. And so with this stock right here, there is this big catalyst coming in the near term, and that is that they are set to join the Russell 2000 and the 3000 indexes. And so with QUBT, there is going to be some investment money from 401ks and all that, and just all index investors that are going to be investing into QUBT, even if they don't know it. And so a big catalyst joining on to the Russell. And then also, this company recently did announce a pretty decent earnings, and what got me really interested is they did announce that they were going to be building some of their quantum computers out here in Tempe, Arizona, right where I am located. And Tempe, Arizona, I am telling you, if you have never visited here, this place is like the mecca when it comes to technology and advancement, because we are seeing a lot out here in Tempe. So we're seeing a lot with robotics, robotics, a lot of food delivery robots, and then also with self-driving cars. So if you've never heard of that, it is pretty wild. It's called Waymo. It's an invention from Google Waymo, and you get in the Waymo, there is no driver. It is 100% AI driven. When they first started to pop up over a year ago, it was pretty trippy because you would look over and you would see in traffic no one was in the driver's seat. And you go, whoa. But I have driven in Waymo. Very nice. If you've never seen my inauguration vlog, go back a couple months down on my page and watch that, because I actually took a Waymo in that. I was in the back seat, no driver in the front. So with QUBT coming out to Tempe, Arizona, that tells me that this company is ahead of the tech trend, because a lot of the biggest tech players are coming out here to Arizona. And so most recently, we have seen a pop in this stock. It has moved up off of the 200-day moving average. And right now, the stock did have more increase today, up 3%, currently sitting at $12.25. When we look at the other indicators on the relative strength index, we are right at 61. And then when we look at the MACD, we could see that the blue is tapping right on the orange. And so currently, the stock is sitting a little more closer to the levels of overbought, but we still have chance to run higher on the RSI, the MACD as well, if we don't see that cross. And just to get to the 52-week high that was set in January, that would be a 147. Let me actually adjust that from yesterday. That would be about a 117% increase just to the 52-week high. So quite the upside that you could see there in QUBT. And in my personal opinion, these quantum stocks are only going to gain more momentum through the year, because again, with fear of missing out, many investors feel that they have missed out on a lot of the quantum rise, and the rips up in quantum have been crazy. And so those are my two quantum stocks that I am investing into, QBTS and then also QUBT, both a little bit different. So both quantum, but one is the annealing quantum computers, that is QBTS. The other is more for gate model quantum. So if you don't know about those, just do a quick Google search on gate model versus annealing. You will learn a lot when it comes to quantum computing there. And then with BigBearAI, possibly some more short-term volatility, possibly a bit of a drop-off, but myself, I am not too concerned about the short term. I am a long-term bull on the Big Bear, but I would be curious to hear what everyone else thinks about these stocks in the comment section below. So please drop a comment on if you are invested into Big Bear or these quantum stocks. Also, please leave a like and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. I thank you guys all so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next daily talk of stock.